Not one, but two maps from the 1500s show Antarctica with no ice. Yes, you heard me right. Both the Piri Reis map from 1513 and the Urbano Monte from 1587, two of the world's oldest maps, depict Antarctica without any ice. Both of these works are truly extraordinary pieces of art, and they've had even the most esteemed scholars baffled for years. On top of Antarctica with no ice, which I'm going to share a theory as to why that is later in the video, they have depictions of all kinds of odd mythological creatures, at least thought to be mythological. We'll go over those as well. But as always, y'all know the drill. But let's start with the Piri Reis, saving the best for last. The Urbano Monte. The Piri Reis map is a world map created by Ottoman Turkish cartographer Ahmed Muhyiddin Piri in 1513. The map has caused a lot of buzz and grabbed the attention of some of the most esteemed historians because it appears to show an ice-free Antarctic coastline. If this is the case, then someone had to have discovered and mapped it centuries before its reported discovery in 1773. Alleged to be the oldest map in the world, it was buried for centuries, until in 1929, when director Halil Edhem went through the basement of a Turkish palace looking for old maps at the request of German theologian Gustav Adolf Deismann. While rummaging through the palace basement, Edhem happened to stumble upon a very mysterious-looking artifact. The small map was inked on animal skin, so he immediately knew it had to be old. As he picked it up, he quickly noticed only a fraction of it remained. As he handed it to Gustav, the German theologian thought it looked like any old map, until he noticed something peculiar about it. As he inspected it closer, he couldn't believe what they had discovered. They'd identify it as the Piri Reis map of 1513, and it's said to be the only map in existence that referenced the last remaining work from Christopher Columbus himself. This was because Reis' uncle, who personally sailed with Columbus over 20 years prior, had a hand-drawn map from Christopher's collection that he left Reis in his will. It's even said that this was one of Columbus's lost maps, so Reis' reproduction was the only representation available of Christopher Columbus's map at the time. After much study, historians were baffled to find that not only did Reis accurately include depictions of the Canary, Azores, and Atlantic Islands, but it's believed he even had precise depictions of Antarctica's coastline. But Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1773. So how in the world did somebody represent it on a map almost 250 years prior? Regardless of the map's amazing traits, it would be disregarded again for another 35 years, until 1965. That's when a professor from the University of New Hampshire would bring it out to scrutinize it with his students. Professor Charles Hapgood and his class would also quickly notice Antarctica's coastline, but most importantly, the fact that it had no ice. And even after Hapgood looked at all the maps that Reis had referenced, they showed no such thing. So the map that Reis used to reference Antarctica was non-existent. Nobody knew what his source was. And what's even more baffling is, according to mainstream science, Antarctica has been covered in ice for over 15 million years. Now, if that is actually the case, then how in the world are we finding maps that have Antarctica with no ice? Then that would mean that our scholars are either wrong, or Reis referenced a map over 15 million years old. I gotta hear y'all's opinions in the comments. Are our scholars wrong, or did he reference a map that old? Let me know. Either way, the map he must have referenced for these Antarctic islands had to have been quite a few thousand years old, probably at least before the Great Flood. Because as you can see, it's not like they just drew a map and left it at that. They drew animals that were indigenous to the area, even bipedal humanoid type creatures, fleets sailing near the area. So they're not just making this stuff up. They either saw it or they actually referenced it from other maps who did see it. And what baffled Hapgood even more about this map was how accurately it depicted the coastlines, to almost a T. He believed that the only way this could happen is if they had done so from the air, meaning that there's a possibility that there was actually a super advanced civilization on Earth, maybe as many as 10 to 15,000 years ago. We're talking the Atlantean Lemurian era, either that or possibly maybe right around the fallen angel era. As I said, right before the Great Flood. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff on this map, obviously for entertainment purposes only, but it's almost a melting pot of different creatures, different humanoids living in the world at this time. Now, I'm going to go ahead and spitball a few theories as to why it is possible that they did map these just thousands of years ago. Now, y'all know the story of the fallen angels. The angels came down from heaven, corrupted mankind. Well, at this time, there was a lot of interbreeding and mixing of species. Also, during this time, there was a lot of corruption. The fallen had taught man how to use metals, how to wear jewelry, makeup, beautifying of the eyelids, armor, etc. Well, as I was looking over this Piri Reis map, which I recently bought a blowed up version of it, it's on a piece of like canvas, I was looking closely at it and couldn't believe some of the creatures I was seeing. Now, obviously, these could be written just based off fantasy, legend, and lore by Piri Reis back then. So, for entertainment purposes only. Nevertheless, it's odd that they're in particular places on the map, and they seem to be strategically placed throughout it. Take a look. The first one I want to show you seems to be in the Brazil area of South America. Now, these look like humanoid type creatures standing on two legs, and they have dog-like features. Now, I'm not saying they're werewolves, but I don't know. There's legends back in the day of dog-faced men that existed on this planet. Again, this could just be legend, and that's why they put them there. I'm not saying that those are actual living creatures at the time. Is it possible? I don't know. Maybe. Next, I want to show you another depiction. This was just south of Brazil. It seems to be a dog-faced man or woman and a blemis. Those that don't know what blemis are, those were humanoid, headless men whose faces and mouths were in their torso, their chest, and their stomach. Again, there's legend of these creatures. It's said that back in the day, humans used to even trade with the dog-faced men or the blemis. They were generally friendly and not hostile, though sometimes the dog-faced men could get hostile, according to legend. So this last one, I couldn't seem to find anywhere. I searched and searched, but there's no close-up pictures of him. But I have the map, so I took one. And that would be this gentleman. He's on Africa side. Now, if you look closely, he does resemble possibly a certain type of person. Yes, in the past, they've purposely done this, tribes have in Africa, but this is so old, one could possibly argue that maybe it's an authentic, elongated skull person. If you look closely, he has a crown on top of his elongated skull. Now, all of these are crazy. I understand. They're wild. They're intriguing. They put them on their maps, and I'm not going to lie, wait till you see the Urbano Monte map. Way crazier than this one. So, did they do that because of legend and lore? Did they do that because they were there? I have a guess, but I'll keep that for the live. Back to, why did Antarctica not have ice in these maps? Well, we all know that at one time there was allegedly a Atlantean-Lemurian war on this planet. So, say the ice was frozen on Antarctica prior to a massive nuclear war or a war between the archangels and the fallen. Could some catastrophic event such as that brought heat essentially melt the ice for a short period of time, then possibly refreeze it? I don't know, but I have a feeling it's something along those lines. Maybe a meteor hit or a volcanic eruption, something of nature possibly. Could have been a war, could have been nature. But I do believe that there was a period of time that if it was frozen, if Antarctica was frozen 15 million years ago, in the in-between, there was a period of time, a few thousand years possibly, that there was no ice on Antarctica. Either that, or I have an even funnier feeling that it's a lot more recently frozen than people think. Like, I'm saying around right before or right after the Great Flood is when it froze. I mean, think about it. If the timing was just right when the waters resided and it was frozen near Antarctica or cold, it would freeze a massive amount of ice on the continent. I mean, think about it, fam. You're talking ice that in some places is miles thick. Miles. Now, how else would it get miles thick ice on it, if not from the floodwaters? I know you're going to say, oh, salt water doesn't freeze. Well, true, but was the floodwater saltwater? Yes, the floodwaters joined with saltwater, but there was a lot more fresh water than there was saltwater at the time. It could easily separate and freeze when the waters resided, and you had all that fresh rain. I'm just throwing it out there. It's just a theory. Don't, run home with it. I like to propose that possibly Antarctica didn't freeze until around the Great Flood. And that's why these older maps have Antarctica with no ice. So there you have it for the Piri Reis map. I thought I'd have enough time, but I don't. The Urbano Monte is going to have to be a separate video. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, check out my podcast, and follow me on Twitter. I really appreciate it. Stay in love, stay in the light. Be kind to others. I hope you are enjoying your Sunday. And stay tuned. I am out.